Welcome back, adventurer. This week's creatures have been described as very polite children with rather unusual sunglasses, the scariest backpacker, and a dog carrying a pouch of deadly dust. So come, pull up a stool at Creature Tavern. Welcome to the Thunderdome of Folklore. Grab yourself a pint pie and pick up your ears for a tale of three new creatures from the dark edges of reality. We'll kick off today with legend of the Black-Eyed Children from American folklore. The Black-Eyed Children, also named Black-Eyed Kids, aren't some hip song group. They're a number of unnerving figures from modern America, typically described as resembling ordinary human children or teenagers. Witnesses say never any older than 16. But if you look closer, you'll notice their subtle details that portray this human illusion. Their most recognizable feature, and gives it away in their name, are the pitch black eyes, entirely devoid of iris or pupil, just pure voids of black. If, like myself, you've been locked in a staring contest with a rat or two, you'll be familiar with these oceans of darkness. These abyss eyes transform what was first thought to be an innocent child into a disturbing, otherworldly force. Their skin is often pale, sometimes suspiciously so, and folks say they're usually dressed in casual clothing, though some accounts claim their attire is occasionally outdated, like it's not from the same century as yourself. Reports suggest these beings appear on a spectrum between 6 and 16 years old. At the lower end, witnesses describe them as standing at 3 foot 9 inches to around 5 foot 4 inches for girls, and 5 foot 8 inches for boys. And to add more spook to this specimen, I managed to find at least one rare account that mentioned talons in place of toes. But this is far from common, and remains one of the most, let's say, disputed features of the Black-Eyed Children. Where the Black-Eyed Kids come from is topic of great debate. Heard folks claim all sorts of origins. Undead, ghosts, demons, vampires, fae or changelings. They all tend to be the titles you'll hear the most, with some demonologists asserting that they're children of the devil himself. And to those who believe this fable, allowing them into your home is equivalent to inviting the devil into your life. The first known account surfaced in the 1980s, but the most widely publicized encounter comes from 1996, when Texas reporter Brian Bethel recounted his chilling experience in Abilene, Texas. Sitting in his car after work, Bethel noticed two teenagers approach him. They asked for a ride to their mother's house to retrieve money for some show tickets happening nearby. An ordinary encounter, but it doesn't end there. Bethel states that something felt wrong. For example, the show in question had already ended. And then as the lamps lining the road began to light, they illuminated the youth's face. Bethel saw those black, soulless voids these kids called eyes. Filling him with dread, he fled the scene immediately. Additional reports followed, with Bethel claiming his aunt also had an encounter with the creatures. Says she heard a child crying at night, so like all rational people do, she followed the sobs. Reaching the source, she came upon a young girl of 6 who looked up at her with those familiar black eyes before racing off into the woods. Sure enough, Johnny Law was called to search those woods, but nothing ever turned up. And in another account, from 2014, a sighting in Staffordshire, England, was reported where children wearing those empty black eyes were allegedly seen haunting a pub in the nearby area. They don't seem to be tied to one geological location. Documented sightings have occurred in the US, specifically Texas, Oklahoma, and Vermont. And for the UK, it seems Staffordshire and London are the spots to frequent. But considering these creatures attempt to come across as a child, they'll likely appear anywhere children do. For their behaviours, the black-eyed children are infamous for the rather polite and clockwork-like ways they interact with humans. From the accounts I've had me peepers over, they exclusively appear at night, likely to help cover those pitch-black looking holes, and most often on your doorstep, though they have also been reported begging or hitchhiking along the roadside. Their method of approach is scripted by all means, and expressed with zero acting talent. They attempt to impersonate ordinary human children, often giving plausible reasons for their requests of entry, such as needing to call their parents or asking for a ride home. However, beneath this facade lies an unmistakable sense of wrongness. Witnesses frequently report that the children act in no way like regular children, staring blankly straight ahead with a fixed neck, zero eye contact, odd speech patterns, speaking in a monotone voice, and often repeating the same phrases without deviation. And when pressed with questions outside their prepared responses, they fall into an unnerving silence before repeating their same simple, unsettling request. "Can I come in, please? I need to call my mummy." Encounters with these creatures are almost universally accompanied by an overwhelming sense of dread. Those who meet them describe a primal reaction, an instinctive feeling that something is profoundly off. In many cases, the black-eyed children are incredibly persistent, continuing to press their requests even as unease mounts. According to legend, they cannot enter a home, cart, or any other enclosed space without explicit permission from the owner. This echoes the rules that govern the breed of vampire, or some substrains of demon. And it won't surprise you to hear their primary goal is gaining entry. And if refused, their demeanour tilts. Where initially polite and quite reserved, they become increasingly agitated, borderline angry. But this rage is never outwardly presented in the form of violence. Folks who've had dealings with these oddities say their voice changes, but their physical presence remains the same, like the insides don't match the out. Some accounts suggest that when their requests are not met, they simply disappear without a trace, vanishing as suddenly as they appeared. Like in the case of that mother and daughter from earlier, where the child vanished in the woods, or in Brian Bethel's 1996, after fleeing the scene, Bethel took a peek in his rearview mirror. I'm guessing he wanted to check they weren't on the follow. But to his surprise, where once stood children, now didn't even stand a shadow. If you ever find yourself in an encounter with the uncanny kids, you needn't worry whether you've got it in you to hit a child. In every account I've heard, things never get physical. But the psychological after effects can be severe, with folks reporting persistent nightmares, paranoia, and even agoraphobia following their experiences. And that's just from meeting the creatures. If you invite them in, firstly I'd ask why. And then I'd tell you that things are going to get a little more ominous. You see, once they've gained entry, they'll just wander in, with that same air of unusual, as they quietly and robotically walk over to a seat, sit down, and wait. They won't ask for a drink or answer your offer for one. They'll just sit. Sometimes they'll request to call their parents, but that's usually all you'll get out of them. And some folks say they're waiting for an event to occur that creates distraction, such as candles going out or your lights falling. Some folks believe these events are caused by the black-eyed kids themselves. And after the kids have satisfied whatever hidden reason they had for entering your home, they'll leave. You'll be unharmed, but that's short-lived, as it's thought that misfortune follows those who've allowed these entities inside. Suddenly, and seeming for no reason, your pets will start to go missing. Later turning up dead. Or you, and anyone else present at the time, will fall mysteriously ill. In some cases, deathly. This connection has led to the theory that inviting the kids invites your end. But what I find most disturbing about this particular cryptid are its motives. No one seems to know what they are, beyond scaring the local populace. Some scholars suggest a malevolent force lies behind those onyx eyes, puppeting these child-shaped husks as they terrify, torture, and take the souls of those helpful enough to invite them in. Now to survive an encounter. I'm sure you've got a few guesses floating about your head. Let's see if I've found anything similar. Number 1. Do not let them in. If you hear a little hand knocking at your door, peek through your little hole. And if you see eyes as dark as a raven's coat, you just leave them be. Out your lights and settle down for a cuppa in the back room till the begging stops. It's possible you'll suffer a tiny psychological breakdown, but you won't die. And in my books, that's a win. Or if you're out when the kids come calling, make a scene. These totally legitimate children don't seem to like the attention of crowds. So yell, jump up and down, wave your arms, whatever it takes. It's a surefire way to dodge their creepy questions. And before heading out, grab a torch. They're creatures of the night, so bring a little light to avoid that unsettling fright. Now, there's no tales of black-eyed children trying to enter a tavern. So what the fuck is that? Hello again, listener. It's your off-duty Tavernkeeper here. Thanks for listening to episode 19 of Creature Tavern. Hope you're enjoying today's listening. Talkie. Hope you're enjoying today's talkie as much as I enjoy making them. Let me know if talkie's a real word by posting about the show using the hashtag CreatureTavern on X or Blue Sky. Doing so will add your name to the totally real list of other listeners who may feature on the show. You could end up as a character in the tavern, or maybe a different character within the same tavern. Either way, you'll get to add a new point on your CV, saying you inspired a character on a show. And if you're joining us on YouTube, leave a comment, and you too could feature as a character on a show. Now, if you're enjoying the show or not, give us a share. Spread a little joy or a little dread. Either one works for me. I reckon that'll be it for advert number 1. So let's fade out the coffee shop tune and reignite the fire as we get you back to the tavern. It was a gnome in sunglasses. Anyways, ready for creature number 2? Yes? No? Yes. Well, let's get you into the lore and legend of El Silbon from Venezuelan folklore. Going by the handle the Whistler, this musical fella is described as a locked soul, condemned to eternally wander our physical realm. The earliest mentions of El Silbon date back to the 19th century, but when speaking with folks it seems the exact origins are split. I found 2 stories surface when researching this cryptid, and lucky for you, I'm about to spill them both straight into your side-on head holes. In the short and sweet version, he's portrayed as a good-hearted farmer, working to build a pleasant life for himself and his pregnant wife. Everything was going to plan, till his father entered the picture and ripped it to shreds when he decided to kill his son's wife and unborn child. In an act of vengeance, the man murdered his father, a deed that ended up cursing him to roam eternal as the homicidal spectre known as El Silbon. The more infamous version parcels up a rather darker origin. Yes, darker than baby murder. Here, El Silbon starts life off as, and I quote, a spoiled brat, indulged by his parents who catered to his every desire. One day, he demanded his father go off hunting and bring back his favourite meat. That was deer at the time, but when his father returned empty-handed, the boy flew, into as all naughty children do from time to time, a murderous rage, killing his father and cutting out his heart and liver, before commanding his unaware mother to cook them as dinner for them both. The mother, suspicious of the familiar meat's toughness, eventually discovers these organs are from her husband's innards. Disgusted and grief-stricken, she cursed her son for eternity. Afterwards, his grandfather carried out a punishment for cannibalizing his own father. The boy was tied to a post in the countryside and lashed till his back was destroyed. His wounds were then cleaned with alcohol, chili peppers and lemon juice, before a sack filled with his father's remains was strapped to his raw flesh. After all that, the boy was released into the wild, but not before one last kick from his grandfather. See, the boy couldn't be left alone to roam the wild, so Grandad set his 2 rabid, starving dogs after him, and condemned the boy to carry the bones of his father forever. It was this tragic family dinner party that marked the birth of El Silbon. As for his appearance, he's no longer a boy. He's now described as an emaciated human male, dressed in tattered farmer's clothes, with the classic hollow, lifeless eyes of a skeleton, and standing at a towering 20 to 40 feet, depending on who you ask. And of course, he's never without his sack, full of good old Dad's remains. Finding El Silbon shouldn't be too difficult, as he's only ever known to haunt South America, with a particular fondness for the Los Llanos countryside. Once there, check the treetops, or if it's raining, head to the streets. Law says you'll find them there, stalking the twisted stone. Failing that, there is one last area you can check. Well, not so much an area as a feature, I guess. It's doorways. He likes to sit in people's doorways. Shouldn't be too hard to track down a 40-foot skeleton sitting in a doorway. In a twist that will surprise many, the Whistler is best known for his signature whistle. A common sound by any means, but unlike most, this one carries air of a deadly omen. If it sounds close, there's no immediate danger. If it sounds far away, yep, you're still safe. But if it seems faint, distant, barely a tickle in your ear, then El Silbon is near, and death is imminent. Law warns they can be heard anywhere, at any time, striking those who understand its power with an electric bolt of fear. This spectral figure is driven by a vengeful purpose, particularly known to target womanizers and drunkards, though on occasion the odd innocent or two do fall prey to its all-consuming wrath. Legends say El Silbon is most active during the summer, with his presence most often felt on rainy or humid days. On these days you'll find him roaming the land, hungry for death. If you've had one too many at the local watering hole, and El Silbon finds you lying in the streets, you're in for what some would describe as a treat. He'll bend down, place his hot skeleton lips over your belly button, and proceed to suck all the alcohol out of your body. Sounds like he'll be doing you a favour. This way you had all the fun but suffer none of the hangover, till he doesn't stop sucking, continuing his demented slurp to do nothing but a lifeless corpse. And if you're a womanizer, you'll suffer an altogether crueler fate. For El Silbon is said to tear them apart, stripping their bones of all flesh, fat, sinew and muscle, and repeating this butcher's task for every bone you've got, till your life too is stripped from you. Once complete, your bones are placed in a sack, resting evermore alongside the remains of Papa. And there is one more sinister custom attributed to our lanky bone man. On certain nights with seemingly no relation, El Silbon will appear just outside someone's home, drop his hulking sack of bones on the ground, and begin counting them one by one. If the occupants hear the counting, they're safe. Nothing of any note happens, apart from the giant 40-foot skeleton appearing in your doorway. But if the sound goes unnoticed till dawn, one person at random will die from that home. So if you ever hear that monstrous rattling of bones and a calm, creepy counting, make sure to exclaim loudly that you hear them. Unless you're in a home full of your enemies, then maybe take the gamble. So to keep your bones in your body instead of a bag, you best heed the next collection of letters leaving me mouth. If you hear that whistle, and you dunny fancy dying, you'll need to find a dog, as barking works a treat in scaring him off, reminding him of that fateful day in his youth when his grandpapa set rabbit dogs on him. Chilies and whips work well too. Lemons were not mentioned. So make sure to have at least one of those three when you're roaming around Venezuela, and you'll be A-okay. Not being a drunk or a womanizer helps too. Though like I mentioned earlier, the odd innocent does end up in his bag from time to time. And now with that beastie in the bag, I'm gonna go smooth things over with the gnome. Oh ho ho! Look who's come listening back. But while you're here and definitely enjoying today's Audible Circus, why not join the clan and subscribe? Become a true member of the Tavern family. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever harmonic hermit crabs find their shells. Just search for Creature Tavern. And since you've probably already got one loaded, why not let us carry that enormous word count and leave it as a review? You've carried it long enough, friend. We're here to help. Share the load. And just like that, advert number 2 has come to an end. Yes, this love was short, but it burned bright. And before we both start crying, let's get you back to the tavern. Right, so I did manage to iron things out, but I owe him 5 free meals, so that's a bit of a sting. Thankfully, we've got one more tale to help take me mind off things. So let's turn our gaze to the Skinwalkers from Navajo folklore. In Navajo tradition, Skinwalkers are called, I'm going to try my best here, Yi Naldushi. a name that translates to by means of it, it goes on all fours. And I really hope I pronounced it correctly. As I understand it, they're a particularly dangerous breed of witch, a type of anti-genie, sorcerers who gain their dreaded powers after committing the most disturbing acts of depravity known to man. To become a skinwalker, folks tell me a candidate must undergo what's described as the witch's sabbath. During this initiation, participants would strip themselves bare, don masks, and sit in a circle, surrounded by baskets of corpse flesh. In some accounts, severed heads line the walls of these caves as audience to the ceremony. The rites include cannibalism, incest, and more than a spot of necrophilia. And if that wasn't enough, there's of course a gruesome cherry on this little cake. To finally ascend into these exclusive ranks, the initiate was required to murder a close relative and present their limp remains to the Sabbath for consumption. Only after such atrocities could one achieve the status of fully fledged skinwalker. Once graduated, the witch gains their signature supernatural ability to shift between human and animal form at will. Coyotes, wolves, foxes, bears, and I think I also heard owls are the most common cloaks. Though skinwalkers are said to be able to take the form of nearly any animal, though considering their environment, it wouldn't make much sense to shape themselves into frogs, badgers, deers, anything woodland really. So you won't need to suspect every citizen in the animal kingdom. To find a skinwalker, there's a couple of places you can check. If you fancy a run-in, then head to northeastern Arizona, northwestern New Mexico, or southeastern Utah. These lands are where I'd recommend you pay special attention to. For Arizona, I'd recommend you check out Chinle, Kayenta, the Canyon del Cherry area, and the capital of the Navajo Nation, Window Rock. For New Mexico, head to San Juan County, specifically Ship Rock, also known as Winged Rock or Rock with Wings in Navajo culture, and stop by the largest city of the same county, Farrington. And for Utah, check out Montezuma Creek and the Bluff region. Two areas sat within the Navajo Indian Reservation. And if you're brave or drunk enough to spy the witch's Sabbath, check out the many caves in these areas. Law states the Sabbath is exclusively an underground ritual. Skinwalkers are defined by their ability to walk in animal skins, a transformation most common at night. There may be some accounts of this occurring during the day, but these accounts seem rather rare from what I've read. In their animal forms, they gain abilities that far exceed those of the actual animal they've chosen to mimic, allowing them to move at great speeds or stalk their enemies with enhanced stealth. To track one down in animal form is near impossible too. For one, they look like the beast, and two, they're not leaving behind human prints for you to follow. All you'll find are, as far as you're aware, regular old animal tracks. In addition to transformation, some traditions also mark that their gaze can induce paralysis, though not everyone agrees with this power. But one of the most feared weapons in a skinwalker's arsenal is their use of something I'll refer to as corpse poison, a substance crafted from the flesh of the dead, with the flesh of dead children, or better yet, dead twin children, being considered especially potent. To that add bones, specifically taken from the back of the skull. With the material in hand, you'll want to dry them out, grind them into a fine powder, and hey presto, you've got yourself one dangerous flour substitute. Just do not bake anything with it. Victims exposed to the powder suffer a number of deadly or uncomfortable results. such as lockjaw, a swollen, blackened tongue, complete loss of consciousness, or death. And if the victim's roulette ball lands on the skull and crossbones, skinwalkers are said to return under the cover of night to rob the corpse, but just of their belongings. Your skin's safe. Maybe. If you're curious as to how they use this poison, it turns out there's a couple of methods of exposure. In some tales, they climb atop their target's home and drop the powder down the chimney, coating all who reside in this forbidden sugar, while others describe them slipping silently through open windows or doors to apply the mist directly. So how can you defend yourself against this deadly dog and its sinister salt? Well, there's a couple of ways, and unsurprisingly, most involve identifying a skinwalker before they've got a chance to dust you. First, assess the behaviour of any wild animal in your proximity, and make sure to do this with a wide radius, as the skinwalker may be observing you from a distance. If you spy any animals lingering around humans or human settlements without fear, suspicion, or maybe you've clocked a quadruped sitting unusually still in a distance, its gaze fixed on you, you might just have a skinwalker on your tail. It's also wise to pay close attention to their movements, as these can seem unnatural or distorted. Like an untrained puppeteer has control of the creature, you might spy a wolf moving in a janky, uncoordinated manner, with parts, such as the tail, remaining limp. A suspected skinwalker in coyote form, for example, will typically resemble the beast, aye, but it'll display noticeable anomalies in size and morphology, if your eyes catch it for long enough. While a natural coyote, nose to tail is about 3 to 4 foot, and standing 1.5 to 2 foot at the shoulder, the skinwalker variant is often oversized, ranging 4 to 5 foot 8 inches in length, and 2 to 2.8 foot in height. And the limbs will appear disproportionately long. The articulation of the joints will also seem oddly human, the forelegs especially, bending at unnatural angles for an animal. If you see a desert animal looking sus, make as many people aware of the potential imposter as you can, and approach with caution. Hopefully the attention scares it off, but there is still that deadly powder, so don't get too cocky. And side note, if this is a wolf, coyote or other dangerous animal, be careful of that too. They won't rob you, but they're just as likely to kill and eat you. If you can get close enough, look at their eyes specifically. Skinwalker eyes, when in animal form, show as slits, beneath which the real eyes of the human can be seen. And their tracks in animal form are said to be a little larger than the average version. But be careful here, as you might end up stumbling on a giant version of an already deadly predator. And make sure to have a few pooch pals nearby, as it's said dogs can sense the presence or past presence of a skinwalker, growing upset or nervous if one's near. And lastly, to get rid of a skinwalker, shoot or slice them up, but aim to hit them in the neck, hands or feet. Otherwise they'll just run off. And with that, we're finished with our last creature for the week. We've learned to never help children if you can't see their eyes. Always carry a little hot sauce. And if an animal offers you a white powder, just say no. Now that bell means it's last call here at Creature Tavern. So grab yourself one more drink for the road. And until next time, tread carefully, adventurer. You never know when you might wander into the weird